Hello, Peter.
Hello. Welcome to room 2 of Catalyst Circle nomination. What are we calling this? Catalyst Circle Town Hall on November the 2nd, where we can ask questions and hear from Catalyst Circle nominees.
Are you running for the Catalyst Circle, Peter?
I am not. I have been too close to this for a little while to have any desire or potential conflict of interest generated.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad. When I saw the breakout room map, it looked like the Champions League elimination groups. I don't know if you guys watch the Champions League.
I have not, but that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Sweet. I got Nebiyu is one of our candidates. David is one as well. Who else? Is anyone else? No? All right, guys. Well, Miro, good to see you, man. Alex, welcome. Awesome to have you. Balaji, are you a candidate?
Yeah, I am Bolaji,
Heck
and I'm
yeah.
a candidate. Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. So I guess let's kick this off by hearing some introductions from the candidates, and then get it started from there. Nebiyu, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
My name is Nebiyu. I'm from Ethiopia. I've been part of Catalyst since Fund 5. We were funded in 2 different projects that we are actively working on. One thing we're supposed to submit our final project actually last week, but we had some glitches, so hopefully this week. I've been the 2 projects I've been working on. I don't know, kind of introductions, just random things that we are talking about. Because it's a smaller group, I thought we would have more time to talk about ourselves. So just
If you just make it short and sweet on the intro. If you reference your statement, that'd probably be helpful. And
Shoot, I don't remember what my statement is.
we probably have that pulled up.
So and I was in the last Catalyst Circle. I was part of the sub-circle for the Joey for toolmakers and maintainers. And this time I'm applying for the Catalyst Circle somewhere in that line. My main goal is to market all the projects that are coming out of Catalyst and to create a good network of the people that are working on. That is my main goal of being a part of the Catalyst Circle. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you want, I can go second. Sweet. So I'm David Baxter, and I've started the Blockchain Learning Center and the Bean Chain, which is a coffee shop, which is going to be crypto friendly and also host a blockchain learning center in there so that we can get people from the real world into blockchain, people that otherwise wouldn't have been onboarded into this space, and help give just common folk a general understanding of how these technologies work. So our goal is really education, and that's kind of why I accepted the nomination for the Catalyst Circle. Is I'd love to help bring a little bit more of an education focus to the circle and the way that Catalyst is managed. I know that I had a hard time navigating Catalyst when I was going through there with the Blockchain Learning Center and with our DAOs course, but I think that it can be a lot easier. So a few ideas for how to make that happen, and we're gonna see how it goes.
Thank you, David. Awesome. Balaji. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, sir.
Yeah, you got that right. My name is Mobolaji Onibudo. I've been part of Catalyst for about a year now, a little over a year, I think August 2021. And my main reason of trying to get into self-nomination, it's because I felt, I've been part of projects that have applied for Catalyst funding, and somehow I felt like it was a kind of a situation of a needle in a haystack where, we don't get enough visibility. And I also feel that perhaps a larger percentage of the voters are most likely token holders or investors who are not necessarily focusing on real use cases that, particularly from the area of the world that I focus on, which is Africa, Grow Cardano, Go Africa, and in particular the NFT community and the creative community at large, from paintings to movies to music. And I think that this this community is not getting that much visibility. We've tried quite a few times to engage, but it's been very limited. And I feel like I could represent them, given some of my background, working here with government, from regulators, the Security and Exchange Commission here in Nigeria, the Nigerian Stock Exchange, got quite a number of blockchain projects and experience and contacts. And I feel being part of the circle would help bring some of the needs of this community to bear. And other than that, I think I would also add, I'm a techie. I have a degree in computer engineering from way too long ago, and project management and project leadership, nearly 2 decades, to also bring to the table. That's about it.
Thank you. That's cool. Awesome community. It sounds like you're representing. Thank you for being here. All right. We have 3 candidates in here. Does anyone have questions? Thondo Wethu, welcome. Astro Canoe, welcome. Paul, welcome. I don't think I mentioned you earlier. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Try to say hi to everybody when they come in. Jonathan, I'm not even doing it to you. See you often. Does anybody have any questions for our 3 candidates in the room today?
I would love to hear, say you're nominated, get through, have a seat. What would be the sort of main achievement you'd like to get done in your term? Within the whole scope of the things that you want to see done, what would be the main one you want to see happen? To each of the candidates.
That sort of candidate, if I let me just jump right at it. I think I'm still hot on the mic. Really, a lot more usage of Cardano in terms of number of wallets within the creative community. A whole lot more of dApps being deployed, being developed by the development community here in Africa. Just more realistic use cases, whether it's for DeFi, whether it's for NFT marketplace, and whether it's other use cases. I think we need to just go a little bit deeper below the fluff of just education, but we need real solutions, real technology. I don't know if you hear, if you guys are aware, Nigeria, which is where I'm from, where we've had the fastest growing fintechs here in Africa, across board, lots of unicorns coming up in payments technology, some being acquired by US companies. So we need to see, actual projects being deployed, being used, things around solving challenges around underbanked and unbanked. So that needs to go just beyond education and awareness now. We need the real projects, and that will require quite a lot of engagement with government, with financial institutions like banks, and also the development community, and also the creative community, and those that would use the solution. So that's a sort of an agenda that I would like to drive.
Thank you. David, you got one?
Yeah, totally. So one of the biggest issues that I experienced personally going through the Catalyst program was finding all the resources I needed and kind of figuring out where I was during all the stages, just kind of finding my place. And then also, figuring out what kind of tools I had outside of Catalyst in the ecosystem, in the greater Cardano world. So I want to, knowing your path is really half the battle. I'm a self-taught web developer, and I taught myself over a long period of time because I didn't know where I was going at first. I didn't have a mentor, but once I did kind of figure out what laid ahead of me and what I needed to learn, it got a lot faster. So I want to try to provide that for people going through Catalyst and people exiting Catalyst, and even people just getting into the Cardano environment. So I've found a few tools that I found particularly helpful in the development space. One of them is a developer's roadmap. I think you can find it at roadmap.sh. Check really quick. Yeah, there's a lot of them there. And the way this guy had set up his, learning experience roadmaps for people was, just trying to build each stage on the last, making sure that people had all the prerequisites taken care of and knew where to find all of the education. So building something like this for Catalyst and for Cardano from the perspective of a user, from the perspective of a developer, and possibly some roadmaps for people trying to get into specifically the NFT space, and others. Could be tremendously helpful, giving people kind of a clear view of the road that lays ahead of them and what they're going to need to learn, and the people that the groups that can help them along the way, and just laying all that out. So I want to do that for Catalyst, and I've already started developing that a little bit. These are open source. This is an open source tool that this guy developed, and I've already approached him about using this for Catalyst and trying to get his approval. But if he doesn't give it, I think we can just build our own pretty easily too. It's not going to be too hard to build our own roadmap. But that would be a tangible thing that I'd like to deliver, along with kind of amping up the documentation a little bit, making it easier to digest.
Thank you. Welcome, Vanessa and Lee. Lee is also another candidate. We can let Nebiyu finish the answer this question that Jonathan has. So real quick first.
Oh. All right. Sorry. So for me, I think my main goal is, as I said earlier on, connecting the different, let's say, projects that are around the Catalyst community. It is quite similar to what I want to work very closely with the Catalyst coordinators. There is a lot of room to improve there, I believe. And in addition to that, there's outside the Catalyst community as well to market all the projects that exist, and for all the new upcoming projects to connect them with the projects that have been done before or continuing, so that we can at least reduce some redundancy, or at least also increase the collaboration among the different projects that exists. So pretty much what I want to do is to build a map of all the projects that exist and the area that they're targeting on, so that anybody that has some idea, they can at least find somebody was working on that area before that, and then they can build on top of it, or they can collaborate to work together. Yeah, and then, as I said earlier, to market it to the extend our community as well, so that people know all these new opportunities or new projects that exist that they can be part of. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Nebiyu. Welcome, Joker. If you want to give us a quick introduction, know you're a candidate. That'd be awesome. And then we have one question that has hit the floor so far, and that's what's the one thing that you'd kind of be working, like one goal that you'd want to achieve by being Catalyst Circle representative in V4?
If I would be able to move the needle on revamping the rating system for Catalyst for the proposals, that would be my main focus. Because right now when people come in and they look at that rating system, they're thinking that that's some sort of stamp of approval for it, and it's not. For the most part, it's just a grammar check. And so you have all these people coming in, seeing 5 stars, not having time to do the research themselves, and you're getting all sorts of stuff approved that shouldn't be, like Daedalus Turbo.
Heard. Yeah, there's a important element. Our ratings protocol and incentive structure. Definitely valuable revision. Anybody else have any questions? We've had one question so far. We've heard from all 4 candidates in the room. How about candidates have questions for each other?
Yeah, maybe we can make it an open discussion on how we see Catalyst Circle going.
Let's do it.
I'm sure everybody has different ideas. Yeah. I mean,
lead the way. Yeah, lead the way.
All right. I mean, so far, I think they started off Catalyst with more on being a way of communicating with the different functional groups, I think, and then it evolved to being like a sensor of the Catalyst area, Catalyst arena. And I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on what do you think we're going next, because right now, even the way the groups are organized, or like the 5 people, there is no defined role. It's for the people selected to define it for themselves. And one of my hopes is that, we don't have all 5 candidates that are focusing on one certain area only, like, I don't know, maybe just community building, or I don't know, state pool operators kind of thing. If all 5, then it would lose the whole scope. So what I hope on this, the 5 people will be from different areas that would be representing it. But of course, it is still entirely up to the community what they decide on. And I mean, I want to hear like any of the thoughts that you have on how this the Catalyst Circle should be organized. I mean, what are the other roles that they need to have?
So I have some ideas on that. The way that we organize the Blockchain Learning Center is as a DISCO. It's a distributed cooperative. And I linked an article where we kind of outlined the way that we make decisions and organize ourselves within the Blockchain Learning Center, and kind of the map that we've laid out for how we'll be organized as we grow. That's kind of a key feature of distributed cooperative, is it's designed for scaling. You have a core group, essentially, at least the way that we're going to be doing it, and there's many different takes on how you can do this, but we're going to have a core group, and that'll be essentially a work team. Now, right now we just have a resource development team, but as we grow and have needs for more teams, we're going to have teams be formed out of the members that are in the core team, and they'll have a specific charter. They'll have a kind of founding constitution for that team, saying, hey, here's our goals and our aims, and once it can either be a team that's going to have an ongoing purpose that'll just continue over time, or a specific goal it needs to accomplish, and then it'll be reabsorbed back into the main team. But it's a cool way to structure yourself if you have evolving needs and changing roles, and I think it's probably well suited for the circle, because we'll have, as members come in and as needs arise, we're going to have little projects that need to have a team assigned to them, a leader, and they need to be finished, and then people can stay versatile and flexible.
I really like that actually. Yeah, it's nice.
Right. I think for me, the way I want to, it's not so much of how the organization could evolve. I think pretty much what's in place now, it's adequate. There's a vision, there's established, the objectives, and there are methods of achieving those objectives. I think what's more important is to be able to ensure that the community is led. It's more led, because it's some of the issues that I found in DAOs, for instance, decentralized autonomous organization. There's just too many people want to go in different directions, and often the core objective or the vision is not easily realized. I think we need Circle to sort of more drive the agenda, as opposed to leave it out totally to the community. There is some power, obviously, that should be given to the community, but I think that the core of that should be within the Circle itself. Otherwise, we just leave some critical opportunities, project initiatives that need to be in place, particularly from this part of the world. I've, for instance, applied for to utilize the Cardano EVM, which is currently on testnet, for a project with the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We've got no feedback to date. But when we applied to Polygon, they responded very quickly, and they're able to jump on the opportunity. So when you have these types of opportunities and this type of projects that could have major impact to this part of the world, been easily missed out, then the whole vision of what Cardano and Catalyst is trying to achieve is sort of lost, and we're not able to really realize that vision. So that's what I have to say to that.
I love those answers. But I feel like you fleshed out some additional threads in your question of bio that we could continue traversing down. Can you bring us back?
Threads. Basically, my question was like, which direction should Catalyst Circle head out to, and how should the Catalyst Circle? So I guess it is two questions. How should the Catalyst Circle be organized? I think Bolaji believes that the structure should remain somewhat similar, but then take more responsibility to give directions to the community, or to take the lead. And with David, I think he wanted to be more versatile and adapt as the situations change. Or I hope I got everything right.
Mostly, what I'm talking about with using a disco structure is just kind of providing more rules for like how we should be operating internally. If it's just kind of a loose collective, then we're doing a lot of like constant pathfinding and reinventing the wheel all the time, just to like get to start on projects. We're trying to figure out how to communicate with each other and govern internally if we don't have rules already in place for how that works. So we can probably save a lot of time by having a more strict structure for rules on, like, when you have a project that needs to be done, you spin up a team for it, gather some members, there's people that are responsible, and then you know what's going to happen over time with that, and you have a system in place for, like, you can define who votes when for what. It just kind of adds more to it's compatible with all the DAO tools. There's nothing that's not DAO about a distributed cooperative. A DAO is essentially just a cooperative, just a loose cooperative that's kind of got an undefined governance structure internally, or like just a very simplified governance structure internally. So it's just it's just powering up the DAO model a little bit so that we can do more with it.
And how do you see Catalyst Circle headed in the future? I mean, maybe after your term, or how do you see it? Because it's been evolving quite a lot. It's been changing quite a lot. So do you think you should keep doing that? I mean,
it sounds like we should probably define a path for how it should change. I would imagine that if the goal is to make Catalyst a better funding tool to like have Catalyst serve the people that are trying to get projects through Catalyst better, then sounds like it should have probably constant and changing representation from that community. I think in the early days of like the Roman Senate, they did something like they elected people randomly from their constituents from like a pool of qualified candidates to serve. So it wasn't like something people ran for, but like there were people that were in a pool and they were just chose. I think maybe having a rotating role like that, like making sure that at least a couple people on the governing council there were from the last fund or something like that. Maybe a few people are offered the position that seem like they'd be good representatives. I don't know. It's worth considering how we plan out the future evolution of that instead of kind of.
Yeah, because I do agree. I think it is changing quite a lot and quite like unplanned ways, just randomly evolving, and we do definitely need to give a direction. Cannot just keep going where a new circle comes and it's a whole new activity that they're just coming up with. One has to continue the work of the other, at least finalize one work before we move on to the next one.
It really depends on what the goal is, right?
Yeah, we need that. Yeah, definitely. We need to define an end goal, or but I don't think there is such a goal defined, and I think it has to be one of the main responsibilities for this circle to define a goal to set the direction for Catalyst Circle moving forward.
Yes, Vanessa.
Yeah, I've got a little question. And I guess I just want quite a direct answer from the candidates. So Circle V4 is going to last for 6 months. Do you think that in that 6 months, Circle V4 should or shouldn't gain, I guess, the right to be part of making decisions on Catalyst parameters? If yes, why? If not, why not?
Absolutely. They should. If they don't have the ability to change any parameters, then how are they going to be able to get anything done? You're supposed to slowly release more and more reins of power to the circle to turn it over to the community. So if the circle is not able to change any parameters, then really they're just a complaint box for the community.
Yeah, from what I understand now, it's the Catalyst Circle is, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, because I don't have a deep understanding of the scope of power the Catalyst Circle has, but I see them interacting with the community and developing some documentation and tool sets, not directly changing the parameters of Catalyst, but serving as an advisory council. Is that kind of a good summary of the scope of power they have at the moment?
If you're asking me, I would say not entirely. I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. They don't have any parameter changing powers or decision making powers. But how did you describe it there? You said they were kind of the phrase you used. I've lost.
Advisory council.
Advisory council. Yeah, not exactly. They're meant to be what has been called a human sensor array. In other words, they're problem sensing. They're meant to be going out and sensing problems in the community, coming back and prioritizing them and taking it out to the community to find solutions. So they're not really, they don't really have a role on advising on parameter changes. It has been mooted back in Circle V2, but it never happened.
Oh, very interesting. I think I was under the impression they had a slightly higher scope of power there. Well, if that, I mean, everything we're talking about here would definitely help with the problem sensing goal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess to answer your question directly, I would like it if the community, if the circle had more power in actually changing the parameters there. So I'd say yes from me.
Thank you. That was a direct answer.
Yes, that would also be yes for me. It's just to reiterate the point I was trying to make earlier. You know, helping from a circle perspective, helping drive the agenda is really what I think it's going to lead to positive change and really getting to identify some of the problems from a problem sensing perspective and trying to grow the user base for Cardano within these different regions across the globe. And I think that if Circle was able to make an influence, then it will yield positively.
I like the part about driving the agenda, but I think ultimately the circle should leave a lot of the major decisions still to the community. I still believe that. I mean, one of the main things of the circle since the beginning was to shape Project Catalyst. That was part of the design. I mean, that was one of the purposes to suggest like improvements and plan to give out plans, but to push the implementation of those plans, I think should still be left to the community, some way of some liquid governance where people can actively come and decide or vote on those projects. So right now, the current state of the circle, I don't believe that us as individuals should have the power to change the Catalyst circle parameters, but we should organize it, plan it, and then give it to the community to suggest the changes or to approve the changes.
It'd be nice if we could serve as a mouthpiece for the community and maybe facilitate decision-making in a similar way to the way the Project Catalyst facilitates the decision-making on who to give the money to. So say people could put in proposals for changes that can be made to Catalyst and they can be voted on by the community. And that could be something that the circle's responsible for helping to facilitate. That way it would be kind of passed right through, more direct democracy.
Yeah, need some tooling for that type of voting to take place. We'll keep that in mind. Thomas, you got your hand up.
Hey guys. Sorry. I guess this leaves me as like kind of a a stupid position, but I still don't understand what the Catalyst Circle does, and I've been trying to wrap my head around it for the longest time. And I keep hearing the same phrase. It's like a human soundboard or a problem sensing mechanism, or oh yeah, we changed the requirements for what you have to fill out on the proposals. But I just can't figure out what the bloody hell it does. So can someone give me a really simple explanation of what it's supposed to do?
Is there anybody that feels like they have a really firm grasp on that?
Oh no,
I mean,
if
I
it's
feel
that
like I
tough,
do.
this isn't a good start, is it?
I feel like I do because I've documented it for almost a year. So yeah, I feel like I do have a good solid grasp of what it is supposed to do. That doesn't always match what it does. And I think it's worth remembering that Circle has not been Circle for quite a few months now. A few people left and people were thrown into consternation about the fact that democratically there should have been a vote. So in the end, we ended up with several unelected people sitting on Circle, which kind of had an effect on what they had a mandate to do. So yeah, I'm kind of going off topic here a bit, Thomas, but I think what I could say is that it is what you've heard. It is supposed to be a problem sensing mechanism. Originally, Circle was designed to represent the different roles in Catalyst. So rather than looking at different communities or looking at, different tasks that people do, it was simply looking at the roles, which people people do lots of different roles, so you could be represented by several people on Circle. But when you are a proposer, you were represented by the proposer person. When you were something else, you were represented by something else, and they are meant to go and find out what those communities see as a problem, come back and prioritize it, for which they used to use a GitHub board, and then kind of catalyze that community to develop solutions. And in Circle V3, they developed, I guess, smaller groups, you could call them, sub-circles, to help work on that. Does that help any?
Oh, yeah, it tells me that you guys do a whole lot of fuck all, but like respectfully, it's quite complex, I'm sure.
When you
comes
say
down
you
to the
guys,
nuts and
nobody
bolts of
here
it.
is on Circle or has ever been on Circle.
Yeah. I mean, all right,
Yeah.
those guys do fuck all, right? I mean, I think
You can
Joker's
go
ready
along.
for fuck all, so yes, my vote. And here's the thing I've been trying to wrap my head around. Circle has been marred by corruption, scandal. It's been bloody useless for the most part. Now, as we move into Fund 10, when people have, they change the questions that they ask when you fill out a Catalyst proposal, and there's one of the questions that still exists for Fund 10 is, how will you spend your budget? How the bloody hell is anyone supposed to know how their budget's being spent if it's being paid in ADA, which is a volatile asset? Oh, you could say, oh yeah, we're going to put 20,000 ADA aside for developers. Cool, great, okay. Well, when that's worth twice as much or half as much, is that going to be the same, right? Who knows? But it just seems like it seems like it could be more, could be better. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around how the candidates that are up right now aim to make it more effective at doing whatever the hell it's supposed to be doing.
I don't want to interrupt the candidates, but when you said it's been marred by corruption, what?
Oh yeah.
What are you talking about specifically?
Well, one of the Catalyst Circle reps, one of our Catalyst Circle reps, and I called them out a long time ago about this. Ended up being found out that they had been running 3 separate Catalyst accounts. Right. Oh, Joker, that's what you actually look like. What's up, dude? I've heard you a million times, never seen you once. Hey.
Come on, Tom. Let's try and keep it focused to the topics at hand.
Okay. So there's a guy, right, chap who's on the Catalyst Circle, and he made 3 separate accounts, one as a proposal assessor, one as a VCA, and one as a proposer. And he went through as his proposer.
Okay, I think we all know what you're talking about. I just wanted to clarify which particular.
Yeah, so he was ultimately removed from the circle entirely, which I think is shocking that our representatives are already this corrupt, right? So if anyone gives any credence to the idea of the Catalyst Circle in the first place, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, great. Okay, we're just going to hire another group of corruptors that are going to have a big circle jerk and get their own friends' Catalyst proposals funded, and then we just rotate them out, right? That's how it works.
Hopefully not. We're having in CCV3, there weren't any of these events to ask nominees questions and whatnot. We just had written statements and a very quick presentation right before the election, which took place on a Google form. So this iteration of CCV4 has got a lot less handicaps or training wheels in terms of, although it has been horribly announced over the last month, we have platform statements on the Cardano forum. This is the second event where community can come and ask about question candidates and get to the nuts and bolts to find the people like Mr. Fernando or whatever who seem to be acting corruptly. So this is the action. Let's do it.
It's evolving. Fantastic.
It's evolving. Yeah.
I'm kind of interested in what your thoughts are on that, Thomas, because you know, corruption is something that there's really no system that's entirely resistant to corruption, as much as we'd like to make them as resistant as possible. What would you like to see happen to, or what kind of mechanisms are you kind of advocating for to try to prevent that kind of corruption
The
in
full
the
abolition
future?
of the catalyst circle. I don't think it's fit for purpose in any sense whatsoever, and I don't think any kind of reform or change can fix it. And I'm more than happy to vote to get my buddy Joker up on there, because I'm sure he'll like cause absolute chaos while he's a part of it, and maybe do some good while he's there as well. But I think it's a pointless source of centralization that, while it's supposed to be a kind of delegated kind of authority to kind of help people to get into Catalyst and create and give that kind of like hand-holding resources or whatever the hell it's supposed to be, I think that it, you know, just fails to serve its purpose time and time again, and it becomes a bit of a circle joke for people to be able to, you know, get the right people on the circle so they have that pseudo authority to get their Catalyst proposals funded and rotate them out and put new people in. I don't know what it does, right? I don't know what purpose it serves that a DAO couldn't serve instead.
I mean, it essentially is a DAO. I mean, with recycling elected officials, which feels like that's less centralized than DAO would end up being, because it would have kind of a static leadership. Was the alternative having IOHK fill all the functions that the circle would?
I mean, I think you could automate a lot of it away, right? I think you could have, say, a decentralized system to propose a change, and then have, once it reaches a certain threshold of votes, have it then put forward to IOHK. Because ultimately, Catalyst is still centralized. They still have to manually release the funds anyway. So it's not like we can talk about Catalyst as if it's a decentralized system in the first place. When it is, right, great, fantastic, all of those systems will be in place. Right now, it's incredibly centralized, selling itself as decentralized, which is fine, because that's what like this blockchain has done from early on, right? It's been growing in levels of decentralization and continues to do so with more pool operators and so on. But I don't know. I don't think it's fit for purpose as it stands. But
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So if the circle had the ability to, you know, request parameter changes, right? They say, hey, we believe these parameters need to be changed. They have some tooling that allows them to have the community vote on it. Then once that community vote is approved or disapproved, if it's approved, they can send it to IOHK. Does that not seem like a drastic improvement over the previous circle version?
I agree it's a drastic improvement of the previous circle version, but I think that there are points of gatekeeping, and there are individuals that just don't need to be there. That same system can be done by an open vote, right? By an open petition, by an open on-chain petition. So why should I have to propose to you, Joker, a change to Catalyst when I can just propose to the wider community a change to Catalyst, and then if it gets a weighting of the vote, then it goes to IOHK for a final determination.
Vanessa, what were you going to say?
Thank you.
I mean, I could open that up to the rest of the floor first. I was just going to say, Thomas, you are talking about, I guess, something a little bit like a SIPS process with a community vote.
Yeah.
How do you see that vote? What are the parameters of that vote? And I guess the question that leads on from that to the candidates is, how would you feel about being elected by a plutocratic vote? Are there any issues there for you?
So I'll pick up to answer the first question. The way that I'd see it working is how Catalyst should be working, is that you have right now we have not a tyranny of the majority. I can't remember the exact term for it, but as we have one ADA, one vote, the more wealthy, the more ADA you accrue, the more power that you have to get more ADA, right? It's kind of like, you know, who has the gold makes the rules, right? And how it should be, and I know this sounds chaotic and frenetic and something, oh, it's changed, we don't want to try this, but it should be in a two-tiered system. You should have a vote of whoever has the vote, you have the initial, 1A to 1 vote system to shortlist all of the catalyst proposals. And then after the fact, you have a 1 person, 1 vote system, right? Which SIPs, all that kind of stuff, blah, 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 which then goes to select of the shortlisted candidates, because the vast majority of people cannot and do not look through every catalyst proposal because there are too many of them, right? But when they're shortlisted down, we can then open this democratic process up to the wider Cardano community. So it doesn't matter if you have a bag with like 4 ADA in it or 500 ADA in it. Your vote still has meaningful impact. Right now, the vast majority of people's votes have no meaningful impact whatsoever. And then the minority of whales get to decide the difference. So that's how I think it should be changed moving forwards. This is why I didn't run for Circle Rep, because I thought, no, I'm too opinionated. I just piss people off.
Well, I think that an important part of getting to the correct course of action is not only having an opinion, but also like trying to really consider where other people are coming from and understand other people's opinions too. I hear what you're saying. I think that the way I would feel about that is I'm definitely in favor of a more democratic system. I'd love it if we had some sort of KYC type situation where we can identify that like 1 person is making 1 vote, not just 1 wallet is making 1 vote. Avoid having an army of bots get to decide things. I'd love it if our system was less plutocratic and oligarchic as it is right now. So I don't feel great about the way the system runs right now. I'd love to see more of a strict democracy without that. My fear with the 2-tier system would be you'd get something like that you just described, would be that you get something kind of like we have in the United States when you're voting for a politician. The wealthy people and the elites decide which candidates you can vote from first, and then you get to choose the lesser of the 2 evils, and that's kind of what it comes down to every time. So I would fear something like that if the wealthy people in the Cardano environment get to choose what you get to vote for.
Just to add on this, I think one of the major issues is the number of voters that there actually exists. The first step should be, and before we move from the plutocratic system that we have, to increase the number of voters. We could really offset the big differences that the whales make. And then eventually, I think we would have to move on from the plutocratic system. But right now, we should keep going in this direction and just get more voters to come and vote to offset this manipulation that might be coming from the whales.
Yeah.
Well, I feel that from Circle's perspective, by being able to help drive that agenda, sort of like limits, positively limits what the community gets to vote on. But there will be issues that are that will have more impact in terms of the adoption of Cardano in emerging markets, for instance, where real problems are being solved with Cardano blockchain, as opposed to us spending too much time debating on how we want to get reorganized, whether we want to have a complete democracy like you would have in a DAO, or you want to have like a 2-tier where within Circle and the inner part of the Cardano organization decide the main agenda, and then the community get to vote on that. So some of the critical growth areas to do with adoption is well achieved going forward. And as we know, with blockchain generally, there are many solutions out there, but at the end of the day, who's going to be here 10 years from now is going to be based on how much adoption actually takes place. Users, token holders, they will go and come, and what will be lasting, it's really what real problems we're able to solve in the areas of unbanked, from savings, credit, insurance, and fundraising for critical communities, and then being able to allow them to bring to bear what they have to offer the global marketplace. I think that's what's most critical for me.
So so you're saying it's a case of getting more voters in first before we're worried about how the voting works per se.
No, I think it's a case of trying to ensure that the agenda addresses the issues of solving real problems, real lasting problems that would drive adoption, and make Cardano an ADA a household word. I think that's really what we should be focused on from the Circle's perspective.
I agree with that.
100%. Peter, how many candidates are in this room right now?
Got 4 in this room. Lee Joker, he's working. He's in the middle of his workday, so if you ask him a question directly, he'll answer it. We got David Baxter over here with Blockchain Learning Center, and Mr. Balaji, who we've been hearing from, and Mr. Nebiyu as well.
Awesome. I have one question for everyone. If everyone could answer it individually, I suppose. Maybe a little bit tough, but conflict. How do you guys perceive conflict, and how do you manage conflict?
I think that for me, I wouldn't be submitting any more proposals while I'm on the circle. I think that's probably the minimum level of what all the circle people should do. I'll also, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a position where either I'm helping other people directly with their proposals, or submitting any of my own in any way that like my position would be able to benefit them more than any other person who's going through that process. And I think that would probably be something that I'd work hard to avoid.
I mean, I do anticipate that I would be in favor of supporting other people to submit proposal, and potentially be involved with that. But I think just the easiest way to manage such a conflict is obviously to remove yourself from the body that decides on that particular maybe subject area, and be focused on others, because I would be doing a disservice because by not being able to by not encouraging proposals from emerging markets and the unsung in terms of the creatives, which is the area that I'm from and that I want to support, and not to be able to support those projects would just be simply pointless for me to be here.
Not sure about what you meant by the conflict. Like if it's internal conflict within, I don't know, Catalyst Circle, I mean, that is as a matter of discussions, and I'm open to any new ideas. So I'm open to it. Like there might be emotions that arise up, but I think I am a believer that all conflicts can be solved, you know, through conversation. As for conflict of interest that we might have, I do intend on resubmitting past applications, or even supporting other people that will be applying for, I don't know, Catalyst funds. Of course, I'll just have to make sure that I don't know if there is anything that my role specifically be promoting, then I would have to recuse myself or avoid that. But
Absolutely.
yeah.
So I did want to address the what I think was probably the the intent of the question was the internal conflicts. Is that more correct than conflict of interest?
I guess both. Yeah, Vanessa asked that in the chat there. That's actually a good point. Because conflict of interest isn't what I meant, but I'm glad you guys went there because that's a good thing to
That's
address
almost
for
even
sure.
better. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll touch on the other conflict too then. Inside the Blockchain Learning Center and the Bean Chain, we do a lot of we make a lot of decisions, and we operate as a distributed cooperative. So we're trying to share responsibility and make sure that the organization reflects all of our missions and visions as a collective rather than just that of the people on top. So we kind of have this system that we call operating in good faith, and we define it really clearly, where it's really operating with trust and vulnerability between each other. We need to trust that each of us is looking out for each other's best interests, that we're not there to try to catch each other or embarrass each other or do anything malicious. We're trying to find the best path forward. And by operating in kind of an environment of trust, we can make sure that we fully listen to each other, that we're not suspicious of the people trying to take advantage of us, and that we give each other the proper depth of understanding, and then try to slowly find the right solutions from there. It's served us really well so far. We've had very, very peaceful and complex arguments about a lot of topics, and they've only served to make the people within our group trust each other more and feel better about talking to each other.
Did everybody get to answer their questions?
I think from my perspective, I think it's all about the vision and the agenda set forth, and just trying to stay loyal to that. I think that puts everybody in line. So it's either you're for the initiatives and the agenda within Catalyst and Circle, and that should help us sort of create a good harmony to work together with shared responsibilities. Of course, I think the greater purpose should be the focus. I think that's how I would look at it.
I have a question.
Just real quick, to answer the conflict resolution. I'm pretty level-headed, so anything that would happen, I would say that it should be held in-house. If the circle members are having conflict with each other, they should resolve that among themselves, maybe with a third-party neutral arbiter or something of that nature, but they should not take it out to the community and be voicing all their frustrations to the community. They should work exhaustively together to find some sort of solution before they go out trying to cause drama.
Yeah.
Got a question, Kyle? All the
Yeah, I have
nominees
two
good? Okay.
I have two questions for all the candidates. First question, I've heard candidates talk about, kind of looking at ways to mitigate voting power, and there's a question about how do we feel about a plutocratic vote. My question is if that position's being taken, how do you reconcile that with the way ADA was sold at the very base layer of blockchain governance in Cardano, which is a proof of stake system? That's question number one. Number two is, in your opinion, what are some of the most significant governance events that have occurred in Cardano blockchain history?
Sorry, could you repeat the first one? And I would just say the second one, I don't have that history, so I couldn't answer.
I'm just trying to get to know. The first one's more a sentiment that whales and people who have more ADA should have, less say than they were. A lot of them were told that they would be able to participate coming into Cardano. Cardano was sold as a proof of stake system to early investors and early participants, that the more work you put into the system, the more say you're going to have into the system. So by this angle of let's limit this voting power brought by individuals that may not understand that dynamic, how do you reconcile that? Because the very base layer of Cardano governance is we're a proof of stake system. And so delegators stake their ADA to stake pools, and the stake pools run code based on that delegation, and that's the that's the base governance. And so so people choose where and how rewards can flow in the ecosystem there. And so a lot of investors were told very early on, hey, you're going to be able to vote based on your ADA. A lot of huge talent who came into the ecosystem very early was told, bring your talent and you will be able to help shape this ecosystem. So how do you reconcile that? That's what that's my question. So if you take that away from a large portion of the community that exists outside it, that's the only point I'm trying to make. I'm just trying to position it as that's a real dynamic.
It's a good question, and I'll tell you this, that it relates to a decade or two from here. Do we want Cardano to still be around, or to have been a platform where whales took advantage of? They manipulated the price, the markets, and dictated the direction, and then that becomes scary, where you don't see Cardano actually being used to solve any real life problems, because the more and more you hear of Wall Street adopting blockchain, and central banks launching digital currencies, and they're using that to try and solve real problems. So is Cardano going to be one of those cryptocurrencies that's here to stay for the long term, that's used in parallel with those digital central bank digital currencies? I'm from Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria launched a CBDC earlier this year, and obviously they've had challenges with adoption, and had pitched to the Imago group, who are very present here in Nigeria. I've also applied to use the EVM that's on testnet, that's currently launched on Cardano, and I've had no joy at all. And we've had real projects that were looking to use Cardano, but we just couldn't get any mileage, anybody reaching out to us. And we've had several projects within Catalyst that never really got the votes, because obviously it was not interesting to the whales. And there are real critical problems here that need to be solved. And XRP, for instance, is being used in South Africa, along with the Reserve Bank, and a few fintech companies to allow remittances with the rand. So there's a digital rand running on XRP. So there are real problems being solved here. There's real adoption being going on, and so how do you balance it? So you need that inner core to ensure that you stay focused on the ball, and not just let the whales drive you out of existence or out of relevance. And I think that's really how we need to look at it. And to some of these folks out here, they've been frustrated with some of these efforts they've made to get funded within from Catalyst.
Yeah, if I were to put my 2 cents in on all that, So whether or not there's a like one person, one vote, or one token, one vote system for Catalyst or for the Circle, we're still a proof of stake ecosystem. So so that means that, you know, if you have somebody came in with $1 million and they're putting that into a bunch of different stake pools, like they're going to end up making more. They're going to end up getting a good return on their investment regardless. They can still invest that, and it's proof of stake. They're gonna get great returns. But I don't necessarily conflate that with the voting system. Like if we want to have it be more democratic or more oligarchic and allow the people with more of the coins to have a larger vote, I think that's kind of, I would say that it being proof of stake is a little disconnected from that. And as far as the rewarding people who put more effort in, I don't personally feel that the way it is right now rewards people that put more effort in. I think it rewards people that have more money, and those are so like, for instance, I've done a lot of work in the Cardano ecosystem over the past year. I have very little Cardano, and it's because I'm not making much money off of. I haven't made any money building the blockchain learning center. I haven't been getting paid for any development work I've done on some projects. Not very much. DAOs don't really have a lot to pay. So I think the people putting in the most effort and the most energy in this ecosystem right now really aren't accruing large amounts of Cardano. So this system isn't working for people that are pouring their hearts and souls into this. It's working for people that come in already with a lot of money.
I didn't come with any money.
I just wanted to add to that to say that you're right. That is what they were told, but I think you have to find a balance, right? Because you don't want to discount those wells. Typically, those wells have a lot of ADA and they're invested in the ecosystem, right? So they don't want to see the ecosystem not be successful. They don't want to see it fail. They want to see it succeed because in return, it's going to help grow, right? And it's going to help grow their wealth. But
Yeah,
at the same time, you got to find that balance that someone new has the ability to work up, whether that's through reputation or other means.
I think the risk is driving away talent before we're ready to drive away talent, because the talent that's here building and driving transaction volume and earning ADA is driving adoption, and that's one angle of it. But I love that you said find a balance, because I think the balance is proposing a linearly or proportional decrease in the tax rate based on the voting power decrease, and then you could potentially make it an opt-in system, and you'll have whales dilute their own power. But we got to take the front on the revenue. But that's how I think you reconcile it. That's just my personal opinion.
Just to put my 2 cents in, I mean, as you said, it is a proof of stake system, but that generally applies to the blockchain. But when it comes to the voting decisions, which affect every individual, there has to be, as I said, a bit of a balance. I do believe that the people that have more at stake should have more say. But then how much more say should they have? I guess that would be the point of the discussion.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a system where the amount of effort somebody puts into the ecosystem is taken into account as well. There's some sort of modifier for their voting power based on how much time and energy they spent, you know, being a developer or a community organizer or something like that, as well as, you know, the amount of risk that they've put in terms of investing their own money.
Merit should matter. I agree. Merit should matter.
Yeah, but how do you balance that with, you know, not having a completely oligarchic system like we have right now, where somebody could come in with $1 million and they're, you know, thousands of times more potent in their voice than someone who has maybe put a year of their life into this ecosystem. And that's kind of how it is now. It really is just how much you have in your wallet.
Do we know what % of the supply voted this last fund? I think it was what,
I say
3,000.
somebody actually posted those metrics and it wasn't very
They're
high.
around. Yeah, we know them, but I just didn't know if anybody knew them offhand. But yeah, participation is
I think it was right around 10%.
no.
Yeah,
way.
it was that high.
That may
It
have been
was-
what registered. I think that's what registered. But what
Oh,
voted.
gotcha.
Yeah, but as I said earlier, like 10%, whether it's 10% even, or even 20% is actually quite a low number. That is, which the lower the lower number of voters that exists, it is the more powers that is the Welsh are getting. And as I said, the biggest rate, one of the greatest first things that we have to do to reduce the power of the Welsh, as we said, is to get more voters in. I think that's the problem. All the small wallets probably feel like that their votes don't matter and they don't vote. But if we can get them to vote, if we can push it like like an actual political system, in most countries voting is easy above 50%. So like if we can get it to 60-70% of ADA holders voting, that would make quite a significant change.
Yeah, that's a communication about what's going on thing. Yeah. It's got to get wide enough for that many channels have to be defined.
Yeah, participation is it's an interesting part of voting. In the United States, only like I think it's less than 6% of the registered voters actually vote. Now, if you get on Twitter and you see people arguing about it, you would think they all do, but they don't.
Right.
I mean, so getting people to actually participate, that is definitely a challenge. So I guess I'd be interested to hear how you guys would kind of maybe try to tackle that.
The UX.
Were you here when I kind of described what my mission was with
I
coming to the
wasn't. I
circle?
came in late. I was in the break or in the main room cutting up with Felix.
I think my answer to that question would probably be a brief reiteration of that. I plan on developing some tools for educating people on how they can go through the Catalyst process, getting them the prerequisites for what they need to know to go through that, and making it really simple, providing a roadmap. A good example of that is if you go to roadmap.sh, is a site that does that for developers. I'd like to achieve something similar for Project Catalyst, where the resources are sorted and organized very nicely, and you have this little roadmap that shows you exactly how to get involved and get the knowledge you need. On top of that, I'd like to simplify a lot of the education around Project Catalyst. That's what we do at the Blockchain Learning Center, which was funded through Project Catalyst, is we make a lot of infographics and courses to help simplify blockchain for people and develop strategies for teaching people that can be effective and meet them where they are. So we kind of base education development in data gathering. So we talk to people, figure out what they need to know, what their pain points are, and then develop the education to meet those pain points. And we've seen tremendous results with talking to just normal people at the Arizona Science Center. We set up a booth there once a month, and we go and try out all our resources with everyday people that may or may not hate or be curious about the blockchain. And we've talked all sorts, and we're always able to get them to a point where they feel comfortable and understand it if they engage with us at this point, which is really, really cool.
Just for me, I think one of the major issues is how complicated it actually is to vote for the average person. The voting app is quite difficult. The voting mechanism, the whole process, registering to vote. For somebody coming new to the system, like people that just probably only got a wallet to just get some ADA and they don't know what to do with it even, like they're already struggling with getting wallets. That is one thing which I've experienced, which is one of the projects which I was working on how to simplify the creation of a wallet, on how to get the wallet to be more user-friendly. But even when you're having difficulty with that, and then to get those people to come to the Catalyst, the app, which like is quite difficult to read which wallet it links to, or the whole shenanigan of the voting mechanism is too clanky to get people in. So we need to simplify it. We need to maybe a web app even, you know, to just get it on your browser and then just vote. More user friendly, better user experience. That would drive a lot more people in. And yeah, I think I would focus on that one. Try to push for a better user experience, I guess.
Huh.
For me, I think, sorry. Okay.
Oh,
for
no, you
me-
go.
Oh, just saying 5 more minutes. All right. For me, I think it's all about adoption, and in emerging markets, unserved communities on board Cardano getting more popular and used across some of these communities, like the unsung. For instance, I represent the unsung community here, where we have creatives who contribute about 20% when you look at the total sales and art globally. And that's obviously a major block in terms of contribution to art globally. But yet there is no representation within Catalyst. A lot of projects and proposals that have come through have just fallen flat. They've not been seen, and they're just not getting that visibility. And trying to get proposals like this to have a better chance of being voted at for is really why I'm here, and also to get more adoption and solve real problems, whether it's in DeFi, insurance, savings, and to really encourage software developers who are yearning to utilize Cardano to come on board, whether it's getting a whole lot of them that are already on using Ethereum to cross over to the new EVM that's been launched on Cardano. You know, more technical stuff and support for the community, basically.
Awesome. Yeah, I had put my hand up to like signify I was agreeing, but that was ambiguous. I'm sorry. How much longer do we want set to discuss? What are you guys' thoughts? We should think about putting an end cap on this. No thoughts?
Could probably do like 2 more questions or something like that.
Okay. Couple more questions. All right, let me go through. We got some new people in the room. Welcome. We've got 4 candidates in room 2 right now. David Baxter, Blockchain Learning Center, Mr. Balaji, Mr. Nebiyu, and Mr. Lee Joker. Right, so if you have a question, put your hand up and let's hear it. No? I've got a quick question then. If it's around centralization versus decentralization, because I feel like a representative democracy is a form of centralization. But if Catalyst Circle is about Catalyst, is Catalyst centralized or decentralized? And so when we think about that contrast, what is Catalyst decentralized? And how is it if it's centralized, where is it centralized?
So the way I typically think about decentralization is it's more of a scale than a binary system. You can't have anything that's completely decentralized. That's just, I mean, there has to be some nexuses of decision making at some point. There has to be some nexuses of just, you know, execution that will require people to come together and make decisions and do things. So there's a necessary amount of centralization. I guess a good way to think about it is it decentralized enough? And I would say probably in a lot of ways, no. We talked about the kind of the plutocratic nature of the system right now. I think that having a circle, which is elected from the people who are taking part in Project Catalyst, is a really good step towards making sure that the opinions of those people are heard. If that's done correctly, then I think that can be a great way to facilitate that. That kind of like the point is to listen, is to find ways to really hear and understand the experiences of the people that are going through that system, and then try to execute on that. So I think as an information gathering resource, it's probably pretty important. They don't really have much decision-making power, so there's not much of that going on the circle, it sounds like, based on the way it operates right now. But yeah, I guess in a roundabout way, I don't think it's decentralized enough in some ways. I do think it's working towards it in others. But I think having the circle is a good idea for making sure that you can listen to people, as long as it's done well. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree, but
Yeah,
like more. Oh, sorry. Go on, Balaji.
I would say there's obviously a fair balance of both, and with anything else in human history, there's no perfect system, and you just have to have a balance. And I feel like right now there is a fair balance, and from time to time that might have to tilt, right? And you have a monarchy in the UAE; they're doing great. And who knows, in the near future, they might have to have a democracy to make things work as the population grows larger. And clearly, Circle does create that opportunity again to drive that agenda. Like I said, I've seen DAOs work, and some of the critical challenges that they have is just too many ideas, too many viewpoints, and then often too much power within the community, and not allowing the core to be able to drive an agenda that is really productive, that is really lasting, that really makes impact. And then too many debates also, and we have to be careful with that, because at the end of the day, there has to be lasting impact, usage, adoption down the line.
Okay. I do agree with I think our focus is Catalyst Circle more. Is it a centralizing force or a decentralizing force? I think our main goal should be to decentralize everything. Let's say the ultimate goal is ultimate decentralization. And is the role of Catalyst pushing us towards that decentralization, but in an efficient way, like whatever has to be done centrally, managing it, but like ultimately the ultimate goal to be like decentralization. So Catalyst Circle may be a centralized body right now, but it has to be a decentralizing force that is pushing the community towards that end goal of ultimate decentralization.
I'm curious, what does ultimate decentralization look like for you? Because for me, that would mean having, if we're talking about an organizational structure, that would mean having as small a teams as possible, working on specific tasks that are kind of networked together in a way that allows for not too much power to pool in any one spot, and for not too much of the scope of the organization to be put onto any one team. So having that kind of be decentralized, and then allowing them to generally make decisions together in a network. But there are still nodes which represents a certain amount of power, because you have to have teams working on things in an organization. It can't just be everyone off in their own cubicle, not talking to anybody else. So So for you, in this ecosystem, what does ultimate decentralization look like?
So so we're talking about an ideal situation. Ideally, every participant in the Cardano community is well aware of their actions and their power and their responsibilities, and everybody is, voting for everything. Everybody is actively participating on building and everything. But like that is not something feasible that would be happening. There will be these nodes. So the whole goal of pushing for ultimate decentralization is to have, let's say, more of these nodes, to have more of these nodes be active. So just pushing the ecosystem to take charge in each node. So obviously, of course, there will always be the small points of centralization, but so I guess the goal would be to increase the number of these points so that when you look at the big picture, it is actually quite decentralized and no big decision comes from any small number of people or small bodies.
That's really similar to the way that I see it. That's why I really like that disco model too, is because it takes one group and it makes it into a bunch of teams.
Yeah, I'm trying to read through the discourse, a lot of text, but I hope there's a more visually attractive thing in the future that you design.
Oh yeah, you know what? We can actually
Yeah.
whip that up this week for you.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you guys. If you, I don't want to cut anybody off before we go, but did you guys see? There's some talk, and Dr. Weisenfeld, who authored SIP 50 to kind of re-architect the incentive algorithms, has made a post about a members-based organization for Cardano as a governance factor. And what do you guys think about that potential structure? And if that's the direction of Cardano, how would the Catalyst Circle play as a role in helping navigate the community that way to achieve that? Because there's a real opportunity that we could see some very big changes to our system and our architecture and how we interact with Treasury.
Paul, sorry, your voice will be low on my end. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, so I'm just there's talk about a members-based organization moving that direction for Cardano, right? And Dr. Michael Weisenfeld, who I believe is a professor at Harvard, posted an initial post on the Cardano forum outlining, kind of a high-level proposed structure of this, but essentially that structure would change a lot about how we move and manage governance. And if I'm hearing community talk that there could be a direction of going that, and to my understanding, that would change Catalyst drastically in a lot of ways. And so if the Catalyst Circle is being elected, they're going to be this body. In the case of that, they just by inherent nature of the positioning of the community, they would potentially be thrust into a massive leadership position to help guide the community towards that model. And is that something that you guys foresee, or what do you think about that? Are you even aware of it? Because I'm not too terribly familiar with that side of stuff and how it would work, and it seems just like it would be a massive undertaking. But here, hold on, maybe I can share a link in the chat.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Thanks for saying it.
No, it's cool. I think Charles mentioned something a little earlier, but Michael had taken it in the hands of the community, and he actually did a poll on Twitter, and he says, "Hey, if we do a members-based organization, who should be the head of it? IOG, CF, a decentralized community?" Or I think they didn't show results, if I'm not mistaken, but most of 89 or 90% are like decentralized community or something. So at least it was above 80. The other ones were really low, but it was an interesting poll. Hold on, let me see if I can find that.
All right, I think I'll be for that to a certain degree, because as history tells us, member-based organizations are pretty successful. There is that it brings opportunity for a sense of ownership and shared responsibility to a large extent. But again, it's also about striking the balance. Cardano started off as a proof of stake blockchain, and the community's grown based on that. So drastic changes like that could be a tunnel for quite a larger number of token holders and community members. So it's obviously something that's worth looking into, and obviously getting it right will be very important. for making it effective enough to be worthwhile.
So I have not been able to read SIP 50, although I am going to look into it very heavily tonight.
Just to be clear,
But-
Joker, SIP 50 was incentive rewards. The new SIP that I posted in the link is a different one that he just posted 3 days ago. It's a different one. So just,
Okay.
sorry, just for clarification.
No worries. I appreciate you clarifying that. I copied what you put in the chat. Whenever anyone says members-based organization, I kind of cringe a little bit. I heard Charles say that on a video and kind of made me a little nervous, because if it's not done correctly, it could almost ruin everything that Cardano is trying to build here. And you end up with a top-down structure where there really isn't that much upward mobility outside of you being in the good graces of someone that holds that position. But with that being said, depending on the implementation of it, it could be a good thing, but I just don't know enough about what you're referring to give you an educated answer on it.
Yeah, I agree. I believe it's member and merit based, so it's something that I don't understand it as well as much, and that's why I was just curious.
I mean, based on the link that you shared, I was just going through it, and I guess it does fall down to the problem I have with it is that it's, as David had said earlier, it falls down to 6 major nodes. There are it has categorized the 6 responsibilities or 6 areas of focus. And I do believe whenever there's such areas of focus, there are points of centralization. There's no other way not to be of course, the whole thing could be decentralized, but then those are centralizing forces based on the merits. So, all the developers coming together, it is kind of centralizing.
I see what you're saying, but just for an example, and in most of those 6 segments, you could be very accurate, but one, it's very interesting, like the stake pool operator segment. Okay, how would they vote in a voting area? Would it be probably based on stake and stake pool? They were deciding that and coming to consensus. But it was interesting, and we had an interesting event in Cardano where IOG, the message was, hey, everybody, it's time to upgrade your nodes. And the stake pool operators were like, no, we want to check something out. And 80% of them didn't upgrade. And so that's a very decentralized, you see what I'm saying? A very decentralized decision process. And if we can bring that body together, that makes sense in my mind. I don't know how you're right. The other groups, we would have to figure out how to make that make sense. But if you brought together a large enough body, but you're right, you almost need something small enough to be able to execute effectively. So it's hard.
Yeah, that ties into my question of where does the centralization currently exist, or where do you think it should? Yeah, where does it currently exist in Catalyst? And yeah, there's gonna be centralization, so it's a matter of what's gonna be centralized, and is that what should be centralized at this point in the development to protect the long-term goals?
So
Opinion.
I don't know what it's hard to figure out, this is a problem that hasn't been solved in all of human history, is what's the perfect way to organize a group of people.
Yeah.
So this is probably the hardest problem, and if we do figure it out, then we'll be a species that will progress to the stars, I'm sure. But I think something that is important and that we're trying to build into our governance model at the Blockchain Learning Center is a process of inward reevaluation and making sure that our rules, our structure, our mission and vision are subject to change as we change and we grow and learn. So we have cycles where we define a date on a certain aspect of what we've set, like our mission or vision or goals or our aims, and then that's the date for reevaluation, where we should go over it, see if they still match what what our visions are as people, and then change it. So when you have something that's too strict and static, I think that kind of limits us in our own creativity. And we want our structures to serve us, not us to serve our structures. So I'd advocate for a pretty flexible one, and that the way they're laying out that members organization there doesn't seem as flexible, unless there's like more to it that allows for it to change and grow as the needs of the ecosystem do. But I'd like to see how that pans out.
Okay, going back to your question, Peter. I guess there's quite a lot of this centralized areas in Cardano. Like say IOHK could be one, or even Catalyst, as we said earlier, is somewhat centralized. Stake pools can be regarded as, to an extent, is not decentralized enough, maybe. So there is a lot of areas which are centralized, or some in the spectrum of centralization and decentralization, going closer to centralized. But the goal, as I said, is as long as the whole community is on the understanding that we should be pushing for this decentralization, then it's fine that we have something that is centralized now, but working towards decentralization. As like, yeah, stake pools, maybe some stake pools have way too much stake at them, and maybe they're not operational. A lot of stake pools are not getting the stakes that they need to be functional. Yeah, then how do we as a community, even the stake pool operators themselves, how do we incentivize the community to make sure that the smaller pools are operational, and we incentivize the community to delegate to the smaller stake pools, let's say. With the Catalyst circle, or within the Catalyst, is how do we give the power that is currently with IOHK towards the community, like the parameter changes? How do we make sure that, maybe if it's going to be Catalyst circle responsible for it, is how do we ensure the community is actively participating enough to be engaged or to be involved in the decision making of all these parameter changes? It has to be democratic in the end, and IOHK cannot take care of this forever. It has to leave their hands and go back to the community. Is how do we facilitate that? So I think Catalyst Circle can have a big role in it, have a very functional and active Catalyst Circle with good community engagement. We'll be able to decentralize all the things that are currently centralized or somewhat centralized.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's all about getting the right balance at the end of the day. The aspects of centralization, there is good and bad. And clearly from some examples that I've seen where there's too much decentralization, it just becomes chaotic and you can't really get anything done from an agenda standpoint. And as nature tells us, there's also always a central processing unit, the brain. And with most living organisms, there's always a central structure, and that drives the larger population, from termites, the queen, and more recently, of course, we've seen democracy working. But really, if you look at it to history, it's still an experiment. It's still a new phenomenon. So time will tell. But it's all about getting that balance and being sure and ensuring that we're productive, we're impactful. There's growth with Cardano adoption. 10, 20 years from here, Cardano is still around, very strong. Hopefully, we'll have a 100 trillion market cap for crypto, and Cardano will be around 5 trillion by then. So it's just all about getting that right balance and ensuring that we, from Circle's perspective, we'll stay focused on the ball and drive that agenda, and of course bring the community along. So that's what how I would want to place it.
Yeah, thank you for those answers to my question. Yeah, I think we can wrap up here probably. Unless someone else has anything. No. Yeah. So I guess let me quickly take a swing at answering my own question a little bit, maybe. I see centralized Catalyst is decentralized in that IOG has managed to decentralize the workforce that kind of operates Catalyst. But all of the process, the parameters, the incentives, all of these are centralized to IOG. But they're technically, but the product that is Catalyst is the communities. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but everything in Catalyst is centralized. IOG owns Catalyst. Catalyst is decentralized enough for the marketing benefits that can be gotten off of having the workforce decentralized. But there's it seems like IOG has been waiting for the community to step up and organize, but at the same time, they have not made it easy to do that organization. That's why Catalyst Circle is an opportunity for the builders of the Cardano blockchain to get into the governance of the funding mechanism that runs off the treasury. And only time will tell how that changes. But yeah, decentralized workforce, centralized processes, centralized design as of yet, for the most part. CCV3 implemented consistent payout dates for monthly funding and small things like that. They were able to like have community members write proposals and bring those to IOG, and those were implemented into, that'd be what I consider a parameter. Yeah. So, well, I'm excited, but
Interesting.
yeah. All righty. Well, let's wrap this up. Anybody have any final thoughts? That was mine. No, from
Probably all
Jonathan?
tapped out here,
No,
but
from David?
it's been a really thrilling conversation, and I love where everyone's mind's at, and I can tell that everyone here really cares about creating something that's fair and effective and that we can use to make a better world. I know that I'm in this because I care about poverty and helping workers. That's why we're making the companies we are and putting our life savings into that. We think that these tools will help. So it's clearly each of you has a very similar mission.
Yeah, I'm really excited by the prospect of this next circle. It seems that there is a wider engagement from a broader community, and seeing Lee stand is very encouraging. And I think that sort of encapsulation of all of us is having a more going to end up with a more rounded circle this time around, which would be great. All the best in the votes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, also, are we having Kyle, Chris? Are we doing more sessions like this before we go to vote, or what's the plan?
I hope so.
this was you guys. I mean, I guess we can figure something out. We haven't really planned, but we should talk more, and we should get as many candidates out there, many opportunities for candidates to get out there. You know, we're happy to help where we can. So if you guys want us to maybe look at something, I can go take that back internally and see if we can. I don't know, what's the plan? Is it just town hall kind of on hiatus for a little bit, and we just gotta fill the time and just kind of.
I think we're stealing the time that the IOG is out the picture. We're going to take it.
I don't. Yeah. They I mean, we'll roll with it. We'll figure it out. But as far as dev side, I think what last say is about 60% done with.
Oh yeah, he's moving right on along with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cruising. So
Phenomenal.
we're actually bringing down testnet for one of our other products we were building to spin it up for the voting, so we get that going. So we're close.
But for what it's worth, Peter and everybody, I guess everybody else too, my intention coming in was to bounce around the rooms and, you know, kind of listen to everybody. But I was so fascinated once I got here, I didn't want to leave. So it would be cool, like if there were more of these where I could, you know, listen to other candidates too. This is really enjoyable. The only thing I would really complain about is those Zildjian symbols that I see back there. They should definitely be Sabian or Minor. That's the only thing that I would. That's my only critique.
What?
It's their comment. I will take that on the chin. And they were secondhand from the paper about 40 years ago.
Nah, I'm just teasing. I'm teasing.
Yeah, and thank you to all the candidates. Really good to hear your voices. Great to hear
Yes.
African. Well.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it, right? And thank God we don't have a parliamentary system in here. We might have to change prime ministers way too often.
Hey, well,
And,
if you need any consultation.
I hope they keep their eye on the ball, right? They got to fix those economic issues, right?
My goodness.
Right.
Embarrassment of my nation at the moment. There we go.
Hey, embarrassment of mine too.
All right, man. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Carl, Chris, Jonathan, Peter,
Yeah,
David, Nebiyu. Good to meet
Yes.
you all.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure.
Take care.
Very
All
nice.
right.
Thank you. Later, guys.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very
Right.
much.
Mhm. See you all soon.
See y'all.
Have a good one, everybody.
Peace.
How do you get out of here?
Recording ending
Edge.
now.